This presentation, titled CAPA Management, How Software Can Help Manage and Support Your CAPA Process, comes to us from Shamonique Schrick. Shamonique is a solution architect at Safety Chain with degrees in biochemistry and molecular biology and more than 10 years of experience as an auditor, food safety expert, and quality specialist. She has a wealth of knowledge to share. Shamonique supports customers in everything from reporting and analysis of data, standardization across processes and facilities, identifying best practices, and the blueprint process. Beside her work at Safety Chain, Shamonique has also worked as a food safety specialist and supplier quality specialist at Cargill, supply and quality auditor for Treehouse Foods, and microbiologist at Miller Coors. And with that, take it away, Shamonique.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to talk about CAPA management and how a software solution could potentially help you manage that process. So today we'll be discussing why CAPA management is important, uses for a software solution, and benefits to using a software solution for a CAPA process. And then I'll give you an example of how it might look in a software solution. So overall, why is CAPA management important? So we do these audits, we go out, we have these non-conformances, and we might find things that require a full-blown CAPA, or we can just have things that are non-conformances. But CAPA management is usually a really big undertaking for an organization because you need to be able to investigate the root cause of non-conformities relating to any of the product processes and quality and food safety systems that you've been auditing and evaluating. You're going to have to identify the actions that are needed to correct and prevent the reoccurrence of these non-conformances. And then you're also going to have to verify and validate the corrective and preventive actions. And compiling all of that information and keeping it organized and documenting it correctly is really difficult. Usually, unless you have someone specifically dedicated to managing your CAPA or your non-conformances, the reports can be overlooked or forgotten, and your issues may never be effectively resolved. And that's when you'll usually see those recurring issues. And those can spiral into costly quality or food safety concerns. So any CAPA management software that you look at or are evaluating, it needs to have the basic functionality of reporting and being able to help you organize and manage the activities that are related to a CAPA. So uses for software. Typically, you can use any type of software that does CAPA management, not only for CAPA management, but for audit non-conformance resolutions, ops, and continuous improvement, and EHS incidents. Typically, when evaluating a solution, your organization can perform root causes for the various types of incidents and drive better improvements in your organization as a whole, and not just in your food safety and quality realm. If your CAPA is a standalone system, it's going to be easy to treat issues as an isolated incident, which can be resolved and then forgotten. But if you have a CAPA system that is linked to data reporting and documents, it's easier to drive those quality improvements. So we're going to specifically focus on CAPA management related to audits and audit non-conformances today. So benefits for using a software solution. If you have efficient data management, specifically using electronic record keeping, you're going to have on-demand data retrieval, which is really valuable when trying to look at issues, do the proper investigation, and then be able to address them. So basic reporting capabilities that you typically have when you're using like a Microsoft solution or a Google Suite solution, they don't allow your organization to filter or understand trends of the CAPAs that you're identifying and finding. So your reporting capabilities are going to be greatly improved if you use a software solution. Small issues can also be addressed in the software solution, whether you want to do a basic audit nonconformance or, like I said, a full-blown CAPA, and those workflows associated with the nonconformance or CAPA that's identified. I would say that one of the most difficult parts of the CAPA management process is tracking your workflow and understanding where you are in your process. And because it usually involves a lot of moving parts. If you have a full-blown CAPA, you're going to have members of various um, departments that are going to be responsible for performing various parts of the investigation, gathering information and data. And when you have all of those moving parts, it's difficult to understand where they are in the process with those things. But using a software solution, you can assign tasks out to individuals or to departments and give them dates, target dates for when to have it completed. And there'll be automated reminders for them in that process, not only for them, but for you as well. You'll be able to see this date's coming up and they haven't even started on the task associated with that CAPA that's been identified from an audit. There's also the ability to attach relevant evidence and records that are associated with your CAPA, so you can have all that data and information in one place. So that's where you get that controlled way to organize and report findings to auditors and things like that. So your CAPA system should make it difficult to forget or neglect issues or let problems build up in the system. It should improve in collaboration and help your organization avoid unnecessary meetings, emails, communication across all systems while mitigating all of the risks that have been identified in your CAPA process. And the best software solutions are going to allow things to be assigned and automate your process for the resolution of this CAPA. And even if you're busy managing other things, the software is going to help you, like I said, track that workflow, assign those tasks, and understand where you are in relationship to that investigation. And so when you're looking at a software solution, it should be able to assign issues to tasks, to team members, automate your notifications, allow them to add comments and allow them to have dialogue within the software solution to say, hey, I updated this. This is what I found so far, and allow people to make comments or allow them to then send that information to the next person in your workflow that's been identified. And your CAPA software solution must be sufficient to satisfy your audit trail requirements. When you're using a CAPA software solution, it's going to provide a full audit trail to support data-driven management. And so it should ideally be a single place to understand how issues are linked together. You don't want to have your information siloed in various different SharePoints or emails or things like that. That's why using a software solution is really invaluable, because all of those things are in one place for you to be able to have it in real time and to be able to access it as the investigation is happening, and without having to track down people to ask them, hey, where are you with this sort of a thing. So this is an example of what a potential software solution could look like, where you have a comprehensive landing page to how many, oh, I'm sorry. You have a comprehensive landing page as to how many cases or CAPAs are open. You can understand if things are critical. You can understand if they're complete, if they're late, how many tasks have been assigned to you. So looking at this, it lets you know who owns the case or the CAPA that's been identified, when it was open, when it was started, the status of it, the category it falls under, severity, and you can even, in some solutions, you can designate if it's a full-blown CAPA or if it's not, and it's just a normal nonconformance that needs to be addressed. You can use your system to identify, to manage all of those things. You can see the due by date, you can see things that are late, and you can also see the stage of the investigation. And it's a really comprehensive view of those things without having to go into a spreadsheet and then try to scroll over to see what's going on with the investigation, or hoping that someone's made an update. It's going to automatically do those things for you. And here, this is just another view of that same data that we were looking at on the previous slide. You can filter for date ranges. You can see the sources of the nonconformances or the CAPAs, as seen on the left side here. If it was related to quality, project product management, performance, manufacturing, all of those things. You can see the case severity and the different categories that those CAPAs or nonconformances are under here. It's just another way to view the data. And these are things that if you're not using a software solution, you're not going to be able to look into and have that information at your fingertips. You're going to have to take that data and then manually manipulate it. But these things are right here at your fingertips, and you can see cases that are potentially going to be late or at risk for being late and address those in real time and not have to wait until you're catching up with the complete group to say, hey, why isn't this done? And prevent those dates from being moved out continuously. That's typically an issue that you have when you do identify a CAPA, that you're just not able to keep up with them because there's so many things going on and people get busy. But having those automated reminders and being able to see all of this information is really valuable. And this is also just a look at if you had an internal audit source. You can see how many minors were identified, the categories they were in, and the case severity. And these are things that can also be customized when you are looking at a software solution to identify the sources and the severities and the categories, things that are relevant to your organization and things that you would like to track. It's important to note that these type of databases can be very plant specific, or you can have an enterprise view where you are more of like a corporate auditor and you just want to know where people are with closing out the corrective actions or CAPAs that you've assigned, or you can have it where it's at a specific facility and you want to know all of your cases in that facility and tracking out the specific investigations. It can be as detailed as you would like for it to be, or it can be as high level as you would like for it to be because it's configurable in most cases. So part of the problem with CAPAs as well is that you don't have a standard reporting way to look at the data. So when entering in a case, you can name it whatever you would like. And you can also identify the source. You can identify the location and the category, and you can designate if it's a CAPA or not, the status, if it's open or complete, the severity, the total cost, and the target due date, and a summary of what's happened. And then one of I think the biggest things is the the stage option, because you're able to say that this one is being currently investigated. You can define those stages that are related to your workflow and your process to help facilitate people being able to close out those CAPAs and to understand and to standardize the workflow for a CAPA. I think that's one of the things that is also difficult sometimes with the CAPA, is that the workflows aren't clear and the queues aren't clear. So then they kind of get lost in the shuffle. But with the software solution, you'll be able to clearly identify and standardize those stages that are necessary and be able to manage the process and get to the point where you're being more proactive rather than reactive and preventing those recurring issues. It's a really invaluable tool that you can utilize here. And then you also have the ability, once you've entered in the case information, to go ahead and assign out the tasks to the relevant people. You can attach records that are associated with that specific CAPA, and you also will have the complete history of this incident or this CAPA. So if you're moving out dates, you'll be able to see that in real time. You'll be able to have the metadata associated with it. And it's going to be really helpful because you want to make sure that you are hitting those target dates and that you're not continuing to move them out all the time. But having that history is going to help promote accountability and enforce the processes that you're developing for your CAPA in order for them to become more mature and repeatable over time. And this would be an example of what a CAPA could look like once you have the report in there and all of the relevant information. You can attach pictures, you can attach other documents within your system. As long as the information is in your system and you're collecting it in your system, you'll be able to have access to it and attach it to the to your CAPA incident. And that's one of the things that you want to look for in a potential solution, is that you have the ability to integrate with your QMS and have access to that data. So like I said, you're not having information in various different places. You want to have one source of truth. You want to have one source of information and be able to have all of that at your fingertips, because it's going to help, like I said, enforce the repeatability of your CAPA process and making sure and help it to become more mature and robust over time. And you can see here that you have the ability to email a CAPA if necessary. You have the ability to print it, and you can share it. You can display all of the records and pictures that are attached to it, and everything is in one place. Another really cool thing about having a software solution is that how we discussed having an audit trail and being able to share the information, you can set up secure profiles for external use, which would allow an auditor to be able to look at the relevant CAPAs that they need to look at without giving them access to your complete database or data. And it's a very limited and controlled view. They can't edit any of the details. They can just view them, and you can give them access to the information. It's something that I think a lot of people would benefit from, because you don't have to pull up that complete CAPA register while you're in an audit, or you can just share information even within your organization to people that don't necessarily need to know everything, but you'll be able to share information overall. And so when you're looking at setting up your CAPA software solution, there are a few best practices for it. There are some configurations that you can do. You're going to have to define your needed outputs. So you need to plan for the outputs that you're going to be wanting by defining the type of reporting that will be important to your business. Knowing that will help you define the categories, your subcategories, your stages, and sources that are relevant to your organization to help to standardize that process. You'll also need to define your needed workflows. They could be different for different types of incidents, but overall, you should understand how the process works. It's going to help you to have that more mature CAPA or incident management process. Think about the steps that your organization would use to investigate, report, follow up, and verify an incident. In a software solution, you'll be able to see, once you complete a CAPA, you can automatically set it up so that that verification of effectiveness is automatically scheduled for you within a set amount of time. So you can come back and determine were your corrective actions identified effective. And that's one step that I think that people miss out on, because when something is done, you don't necessarily come back to it because it's fallen off your radar and you have other things that are coming. But using a system will help to automate those verification effectiveness checks, and that's really invaluable. You also will need to consider the needs of auditors, both as a customer and if you're performing audits. So this will help you set your processes up to ensure that you can meet those requirements. And then you need to define the terminology that will be used within your organization. Aligning the terminology is going to be key to helping to, like I say, identify the needed outputs and needed workflows. So in conclusion, your organization can avoid risk and derive business value from a potential CAPA software solution, especially one that supports a QMS suite. And when CAPA processes are automated and linked to surrounding quality systems, you can avoid unnecessary risks and take a proactive approach to your risk cause analysis and CAPA management. And thank you.
And thank you, Shamonique Schrick, for that look at corrective and preventive action. And that concludes this presentation.